I want to welcome you to Meant for Her's third magazine issue interviews. And we are starting with none other than Candice Duggar. Candice is the founder of Bullied, Broken, Redeemed. She's nationally recognized anti-bullying expert specializing in equipping leaders, parents, and youths on all aspects of Gen Z bullying. Candice has been featured on several networks nationally and internationally, including NBC, Christian Broadcast Network, Family Research Council, and is a recognized trainer for Fortune 100 companies. Prior to becoming, an author, a life speaker, a coach, you probably had a 9 to 5 like the rest of us, and
shoot, 9 to 5. I think like 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. One of those jobs.
So, for you to pursue this, that means your dreams definitely took flight. So tell us a little bit about who is Candice Duggar?
Well, I look back at my old self. I think my old self in her 20s and 30s would be laughing if I told them I would be a homeschooling mother, traveling around the country, talking about homeschooling your kids and empowering them and healing children from bullying. I actually used to run multi-million to billion dollar sales teams in the mortgage industry. So I did do a lot of speaking and leading teams in management, but mostly in a male dominated industry. And I actually had a pretty serious health illness that burnout, right? I was burning it out, running the kids, not taking really good care of myself, had a serious health crisis. And when I mean serious, my last doctor's appointment before I stopped working was, don't make another one. You probably won't be here in 60 days because I was running so hard. And I ended up on bed rest for about 3 to 5 years. It was 3 years solid, but I'm a lady of faith, but it was during that time that I saw how much my son, my son had gone from just this joyful child full of life and hope and just happiness to broken and hurting and withdrawing. And I actually almost lost him to suicide due to bullying. And it was during that time that my life went, wow, where are really your priorities as a mother, as somebody who was, kind of everything looked great on the outside, right? We had the nanny, we had the house, we had all these things, but inside there was not a real sense of purpose. When I was going through this mental health crisis with my son and the schools, all the information when you're dealing with bullying is go to the school, go to the administration, go give your power away, really. But there was no help or support for families who were dealing with it. And most of bullying in today's world, so much is inside your home through cyber and gaming. My eyes really opened to how many families like ours were hurting, how many children were hurting, how many mental health crises were going on with our youth at just rates that we almost in our generation couldn't imagine. And then when I opened my eyes and started looking around, I really realized that bullying was not a school issue. It was a cultural issue. And it had been in my workplaces. It had been in the businesses I ran. It was in the ministries that I ran. It was in nonprofits and women to women. It was everywhere. You're attacked online. It's within families. Yet it's this level of abuse we don't talk about. And so many times it's right under our nose. It's literally in our house. Yet we aren't empowered to so many times even know the basics between conflict and bullying and how to resolve it. And so we had this epidemic and there was no help. And so that's where I was like, something has to change. So that is kind of what made me say, hey, what do they say? If not you, then who? To be a mother as women, and I know that's it's still hard to talk about. He's doing well, guys. I don't want to make this a depressing. Sorry, he's doing well. He graduates this year. This is a child who, when we pulled out of school, could hardly write a sentence. He was so broken, and multiple attempts of suicide and a mental health crisis. The type of thing where my husband and I were sleeping with the door opens at night and tag teaming to make sure, really in distress, that we brought him home. And this is a child who said, I don't think I have any purpose or talent in this world. I think I just want to be able to write enough to fill out an application. I'll just take any job so I'm not homeless. That's where that child was. And to come to this point now at 18 that he was able to start college by 15, 16. He has
Wow.
4 life coaching certifications, presidential award scholarships to go off to college. He mentors youth and is creating his own programs for young men dealing with mental health crisis.
Wow.
But it took doing things radically different in our lives so that we could have a radically different outcome. And that took a lot of courage. It was hard. No one believed in me. My own husband didn't want me to homeschool and pull him out. My
Right.
own family was like, you crazy. You've lost your mind. But I just knew that's where we had to go to build that back and then teach him all he needed to do to rebuild himself from this bullying attack that even when we brought him home never stopped.
So let's talk about the courage part. Part of allowing yourself to actually dream and fulfill the dream, actually actualize it, requires courage. As you said earlier, even up to the workplaces, women. And just to throw this in there, and I love that you highlighted that, because one of the reasons why Men for Her exists is because there is a social economic wealth gap that women, have experienced for decades. And that gap is getting wider and wider. And it got wider during the pandemic, the
Mhm.
COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of women had to leave their jobs,
Yeah.
stay home with their kids. And, no one is talking about the issues that some of these children face, the challenges, and, at the end of the day, the bag most times falls on the women, right? We're the
Mhm.
ones
It
left
does.
holding it, where we have to keep the family together. We're the nurturers, we're the teachers. And a lot of women
Mhm.
literally left their jobs. And right
Mhm.
now we're dealing with millions of women not even in a workplace,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It
So
is.
talk to us about what types of tips and best advice would you give to women who are dealing with, bullying in the workplace because of this whole pandemic issue, even prior to that. But now it's more, I've heard people even say, my boss doesn't even want to understand that I have a family, although I'm working virtual. I have a family to take care of,
Mhm.
and the bullying is just getting crazy.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think first it comes to identify that bullying, number one, is a form of abuse. And I
Mm,
think that's hard for us to swallow sometimes, that we're in toxic and abusive relationships with people, because we may, as women, sometimes struggle to set our own boundaries, to step up,
mm,
to speak up because we don't want to rock the boat.
right,
However, for women out there, for anyone out there dealing with this issue, number one, I would suggest you highly we grew up, our generation, right? We grew up not understanding really bullying. Possibly they had an assembly and a poster that said zero tolerance, maybe,
mm,
maybe not. But
right,
we don't even understand it. We don't understand it from a mentality. We don't understand it from how it affects within narcissism, within even when we
mm,
approach bullies, how they
right,
will deny it, reverse it, and attack us. That which is called Darvo. It's something narcissists will use to deny it, attack it, reverse it, and blame you like you're the problem. Right.
right.
So first and foremost, they gaslight you. We've got to get strong in sometimes just the vocabulary and the knowledge to know that we are not crazy, because that is one of the first
Mm,
things that turn around. We get attacked for that. And so understanding that in order for it to be bullying, and to understand there's a huge difference between bullying and conflict. Bullying is not about conflict. Conflict happens all the time, right? Well, not all the time, but conflict's going to happen throughout your life. It's going to happen in your marriage. It's going to happen in work, but it is not bullying. And so when we identify bullying, I use 3 steps. Is it aggressive? Is it repeated? And is there a power imbalance? If you have those 3 steps, you are dealing with bullying. Is it aggressive, repeated, and a power imbalance, which
right.
many times in a workplace from a boss can be. Identify it what it is, put the words to it, and get real serious about an action plan, because it will not stop. That's
Wow.
the thing you need to understand. And also realizing that for many people, they'll move from one business to another, or they move their child from one school to another, or they make that transition, yet without tools to know how to stop the behavior. It's like moving from one abusive relationship to the next abusive relationship. Just got back from Florida about 2 weeks ago doing a conference, and I had several different parents come up to me and talk to me about concerns they're having of their own children bullying them, and
Mm,
them not knowing how to handle their own children
right.
coming at them as bullies and an aggressive tendency and setting boundaries. So
Okay.
in some ways, this is even happening within really close knit in our families, which is something that I haven't seen as much before until really during this pandemic. I've seen more of an explosion of that, or at least we are getting a lot more calls for it, I should say. But that's something to just know about, that even in our own relationships with our children can many times try to take that power handle and attack us.
Talk to us a
Mhm.
little bit about some of the work you do when it comes to lobbying as well.
Yeah, so we are our organization is trying to be very forefront in parental rights and in helping parents to identify it, because when you're dealing with bullying, many times it is tried, you will find a lot of times it tries to be stomped down, quieted down. We don't have that here,
Mhm.
pushed aside, and we'll handle that. You go ahead and go away, right? But our organization feels very strongly about the need to step forward in front. So not only do we work with state organizations, national leadership organizations, we are going to be down at the very first part of the year in January, working and speaking up at Congress at just the needs that are out there in a way to help on a bigger scale. So, I think this is unfortunately an issue with the rise of the internet, with obviously many of us know that, but what we're seeing in the issues of it growing systematically, even within our children who are dealing with bullying, being groomed easier online for trafficking, this issue gets so much more complex. And so when we talk about it, we think, oh, we know bullying, but we
Mhm.
really don't know it until we start to unpack it on multi levels. It's like this octopus that just is with all these tentacles that kind of just go out in every direction.
Would you say you're living out your purpose?
I am. I feel such the work that I do is incredibly hard. I woke up, it was a January. I think this is about the time you and I met. I
Okay.
woke up one morning and I'd walked into my office and I had had my seventh email in less than 10 days of a child who had almost lost their life or had lost their life due to bullying. And these parents felt so alone. There was no place to be. And so I walk through really hard places, but it
Mhm.
is a privilege to walk in dark times with people. It is hard work,
Yes.
right? To help bring somebody back and to help a child find their purpose again and their place of healing. As we talk about, hurt people, but healed people help others heal. And so we are a place that is trying to not just help you understand it, but to restore from places of even past abuse. You would be surprised how many women I talk to dealt with bullying as a child that
Wow.
now are held back in their lives and scared to go try new things because of the abuse that they have dealt with in bullying and haven't been able to come to terms with it. Or even tell their spouse what happened to them or their parents. They still have this hidden piece deep inside that is a big part of hurt. And so we actually, when we're able to in our timeframes, offering workshops virtually for small groups of women to come together and be able to put words to the abuse that happened to them and come to a place of healing and new tools so they can start taking that power back again. On one side, but how do we also empower and help the families who are dealing with a kid they need to get a little bit of a handle on, because if they
Right.
don't, statistics are going to show they're probably going to end up with a criminal record. They're setting boundaries for abusive relationships, all of
Right.
those things. And then on top of that, how do we really come alongside this middle pack of children to have courage to stand up for others when they see them being hurt? We have become a society of people who will walk around somebody on the street beaten or women on the train getting hurt because we don't have our voice of power. We teach
Mhm.
leadership and empowerment to all
I
so
love
that when you're seeing somebody hurting, you stop losing courage. So we
Wow.
don't actually just work with one side. We actually equip everybody, whether you're over here dealing with bullying or you've been the bully or you're in the middle and seeing it happen and you don't know what to do.
As entrepreneurs where we get bullied by clients, by customers.
Probably somebody, what we see is somebody who has learned this tactic early in life, who uses it over and over again to get what they want because it's worked. It's something they've learned right along the way and probably haven't had many boundaries set on them. It's worked, so they've done it. Right? That's kind of what we see earlier in life and growing up. And when I talk to business owners, and even as parents, as moms out here, right? Our kids are always watching us. When we get negative feedback on our businesses, or we post a comment on Facebook and somebody handles it negatively, do we even know how to address that for our own mental health so that it doesn't
Mm.
impact us and become that running
Negativity.
narrative on your
Yeah.
mind, right? How
Wow.
does that impact you and your mental health? And how do you handle it? And then how are you teaching your children?
Right.
What
Because
does that look like? And
because
that's a big part.
because now, Candace, I mean, you bring a different point because as women who, we're going after our dreams, going after our purposes, one bad statement could
Mhm.
literally wreck your
Your
dream.
mental health. Yeah.
It
So here's just a little quick thing. One of the things we do in one of our workshops, this is just a little snippet for you. But when you have something negatively that's been a comment on your Facebook, or even a friend or somebody who's made a comment that you're like, wow, that was a little bit hurtful. I think first we have to acknowledge that that was hurtful. I mean, trying to stomp it down and press it down and just say, oh, that didn't happen. It didn't, like, don't worry about it, blow it off like a bumper sticker, right? Everything will be all right. That does not work. Don't throw that toxic positivity to it. Acknowledge that that was hurtful. There are friends, families, and colleagues that are seeing that comment. You kind of got to acknowledge it's there and then take those next steps deeper. Is this somebody who has my same values? Is this somebody that I would embrace into my life with the same moral values that I'm trying to run my life with? Is this person's comment, if it is, right, then we might need to look a little bit deeper. Is it somebody that
right.
really knows your heart, that knows your intentions, and they're giving you honest feedback? Or is it some
Constructive.
troll out
Right.
there just throwing out nonsense?
I love it.
That's when you have to learn, but you have to work through the process and teach your kids to do it, because if you don't, that is going to seep in their mind and sit there, because they have to acknowledge this person doesn't have my values. This person doesn't have my beliefs. This person doesn't have where I'm looking to go. And it's easier to let go of it.
When you hear that word, her dreams take flight, what comes to mind?
Mm. To me, it's first having the courage to do that. I think so many women, or even myself, I stayed with what was safe and easy because I knew it. I had dreams and I had things I wanted to accomplish, and I knew I wanted to be home with my kids more. I knew I wanted to really make a purpose and leave a legacy and be a thought leader. Like, I knew that in my heart and my soul, that's what I wanted to do. But it wasn't until I took the courage to really believe in myself to step out and do it. And for me, that took a big, big kind of kick of a health issue, right? But it had been so easy to fall back in that pattern. Right? When I was better, it'd have been easier. So to me, her dream trait takes first believes in just having that courage to do it. And then every single day, whatever it is, one step. And it might not even be a big step. You might step over tape today, but one step towards that dream every single day. Saturday, like every day I get up, even if it was Sundays, that day would be the day of prayer, that is what I am fully doing for this. But I am stepping forward every day. I am making some little progress, no matter how little it is. They all add up. But they're
Yeah.
not going to happen if you just sit there on your phone scrolling. You got to take action.
You were to talk to your younger self, dear younger me, what one thing would you tell your younger self looking back today?
Don't worry so much. I was really a worrier. I will tell you, I had a lot of anxiety. Um, I was very alpha A type. Y'all, when I say that, I mean literally my poor husband, the fact he's put up with me. I went out and bought our first house. We've been married 2 years and literally bought a house without telling the man. Like, I mean,
Wow.
it's so bad. I mean, I've worked on this a long time, but I was in the industry. I went
Right.
out. I was, in the mortgage and real estate industry. I was like, this will work. Let's buy it. Good. Yeah, that was a hot mess. But it took me, number one, just not having so much anxiety in my life that I was willing to take some risks that were a little outside and be willing to fail. I
I
had to be
love
okay with failing. And
Yeah.
we fail all the time, right? I mean, the work I do is very challenging and stretching and growing and ever changing. As soon as I write a program, I can't keep it out there. It's one of the things that make our work a little bit challenging. As soon
Mhm.
as we release it, I've got to rewrite new content for the next year, because I mean, we haven't been dealing with these issues, but since 2011 in the areas of cyber and gaming bullying, they're running at us like tsunamis for our kids
Wow.
and in apps. And so as soon as we create it, we have to recreate it. And so not being fearful that it's not perfect. We put it out and we're going to have to come back and do it again because stuff's going to change. About every 6 months, we need to re-release all of our content again and again, which makes this a little bit more challenging. It's not like I can write a Spanish curriculum and send it out there, right? It's a little harder. Yeah. Because people are after our kids and they're after us, and their techniques and tactics are changing constantly. And we have to be kind of at par and a step ahead to keep our families safe in today's world. Get so many parents that have just graduated kids or sent them off, or they're in their early teen years and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad my kids aren't dealing with this. But the reality is our kids 18 to 25, that mid-20s, they're dealing with higher levels of cyberbullying than our teens and kids are.
Right.
It's our kids that we launch from that 18 to 25. So just because you're done parenting does not mean they don't need you and you need to be involved. That framework of time that it's coming down on them from work, from online, from their gaming areas, from all of these places, from their social networks, can make the huge impacts in our young adults' mental health, which is why our corporations are really stepping in, talking about it, making sure they're prepared for it, because it is a huge issue in productivity and mental health.
If you're looking to connect with them one-on-one, you can contact them. We have the information down below. Email Candice@bulliedbrokenredeemed.com or through their website, bulliedbrokenredeemed.com. So,